Hour number 19, overlapping sets. Again, our job here is to provide you with really good content, hopefully worthwhile, inspire you to make some donations. I'm going to do a special thing and actually invite on somebody else to teach this. Harry, go ahead and join the chat if you can. I feel like kind of a wimp dodging out of here and handing off in the relay. It was one of the things I kind of swore I wouldn't do. Want to introduce Harry Duthie, Scotland-based tutor, right now in Italy on vacation, and decided to bring him in here. Part of why I'm going to pick on Harry, so been working together for a few years now. I've taught Harry literally everything I know about the GMAT. So you can think of Harry as basically a taller, more bearded, better looking, sexier accent, smarter, more well-rested, in a more beautiful place version of me. So he's going to take you home with the overlapping sets. He's got a deck that I put together. So Harry's going to take you home from here for the rest of this hour. Going to start as usual with a quiz, 5 questions, 10 minutes. So Harry's going to take hour number 19 with you guys, and then I'll be back for hours number 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 after that. So Harry Duthie, one of the best. I've referenced him a few times. He's been doing some of the foundational quant videos. So Abhijit will take it from here, and we'll get the quiz up. Everybody, please put your answers, if you're watching this live, punch your answers into the form. Yeah, have fun, guys.
All right. As with some of the other ones, yeah, we've got plenty of people getting lots of right answers here, but we've got plenty of variation in there. So I know lots of people have been throwing correct answers up on the chat. Keep the questions coming, but for now, yeah, we're going to race through some of these questions. I didn't make that change, but I'm not that disappointed here. One of the things I talk about with some of the students is your method in this. One of the things we do in the GMAT is I want you to make as few decisions as possible during the exam. We want this to be the easiest experience possible for you. And one of those things is I don't want you having to think about how you're going to do a question. Don't want you to have 7 different methods in your head when an overlapping sets question comes up and you have to decide between them. So one of the things we'd like to do is just sort of, we can take a look at a couple of the questions as we're going using Venn diagrams, but I'm not going to do it as the default here. I'm just going to use the table method, really. Now, I know there's formulas out there as well, and another one of the reasons we don't go for the formulas is because the funny things that go on in your head when the time pressure's on. What I found with students I've worked with is if you're on question 29 or 30 of the quant section, you've only got about 45, 50 seconds left, then your brain tends to remember the formula in funny ways, and it's not always perfect. So what I want to do with this hour is to take a look at these questions using a table that will hopefully give you a process you can follow that will be reliable, repeatable, consistent, and that we're going to reduce the error count. All right, so let's dive right in. We're going to race through these 5 questions and then get some more up on the screen afterwards. So this one, we've got a group of 30 businesses. 21's reporting a net profit. We've got net profit and investment in foreign market. So like I said, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about the table method for these overlapping sets, is I'm going to draw a bit of a grid here. Now, we've got to split this into 2 different parts. We've got 2 things going on here. Businesses are either making a net profit or they've got investments in foreign markets. So I'm just going to call that column NP, and this one is going to be not NP. So businesses are making a net profit. They're not making a net profit. Over here, again, I'll just abbreviate this, IFM. So we've got businesses making investments in foreign markets and businesses not making investments in foreign markets. All right. The final row down here is the total, and the final column over there is the total as well. And we can begin filling in information here. We know we've got a group of 30 businesses, so that's going to be the total down at the bottom there. Now, we're told that 21 of them reported a net profit, so I can begin to fill in information here. And if 21 made a net profit, then to make up a total of 30, 9 of them didn't. Similarly, 15 of them had investments in foreign markets, and again, making up the total of 30, 15 of them didn't. Now, I saw earlier Charles was dealing with some data sufficiency questions, and he talked about pushing the question. Again, this is the sort of thing you can do by pushing the question in an overlapping sets question. Look at the information in the question and fill out as much of this table as possible. The next bit is let's go take a look at exactly what piece of information we're looking for. Now, the question gives us how many businesses did not report a net profit nor invest in foreign markets. So I'm looking for that box there. If I can fill in a number there, then we're done. So first piece of information, 12 of the 30 businesses reported a net profit and had investments in foreign market. Now, yeah, another one of the reasons why I'm not going to use many Venn diagrams for here, particularly for data sufficiency questions, is I want to do this once. I don't want to end up drawing 2, 3, 4 Venn diagrams just to check what's going on with different pieces of information from number 1, different pieces of information from number 2. And so what I'm going to do with this table for piece of information number 1 is I'm going to tuck that information down in the bottom corner there. I can go and fill out as much as I can using this information down in that bottom right corner. And then I've still got most of the box free for piece of information number 2. So I can use one table to do piece of information number 1, check whether A or D is going to be the right answer, one piece of information for number 2. And then even if I get to C versus E, I can still use one table for that. We've put the 12 in the bottom right corner of that top left box. And now let's go see what else I can fill out. Well, looking across that top row, we know it needs to sum to 15. So I can put 3 down in that bottom corner there. And dealing with this, I can put the 6 in there. Now, again, we can get a number in there, data sufficiency question. We didn't need to take things that far, but I know what that's going to be. So I can cross out B, C, E, and my answer is just going to be A or D here. Now, piece of information number 2, again, I can ignore these little pieces of information I've put in the bottom right corner of these boxes, look at number 2, and let's see where this question goes, and we can decide between A and D. So we're told 24 of the 30 businesses reported a net profit or invested in foreign markets or both. Well, that information is telling us about this box, and this box. 24 of them fill up that space, which means that of the 30 businesses in total, we've only got 6 left to fill in that spot. And so our answer here should be D. Both of the pieces of information will satisfy us there. Judging by the answers for the quiz, that was the one that most people found the simplest. That's the one with the most correct answers. But I thought it was worth taking the time just to go through that grid, just in case you haven't seen it. And let's move this on to question 2 of the quiz and take things from there. All right, so while I get rid of this question demonstrates one of the great things about overlapping sets questions, in that one of the things that students worry about is they've often got a lot of text in them. Again, a lot of text in a word problem question, people tend to want to rush them. They want to get through the text quickly, whereas that's possibly the worst thing you could do. This one is, or these questions, these overlapping sets questions are all about the preciseness of the language, precisely what are they asking for and what information have they given you. So another overlapping sets question here. This time we've got beer, no beer, and I've got my total, wine, no wine, and over my total. And again, let's go look at the information that we've been given and we can go and fill this in. Now, this is about a percent question. So the total down at the bottom right is going to be 100%. We're told up at the start, 70% of these Denver residents drink beer. So I can fill in down my bottom here, 70% drink the beer, and we've got 30% drinking wine. Sorry, 30% are not drinking beer. Similarly, we're told 60% drink wine. So I can fill in that box there. And if 60% drink wine, then 40% do not drink wine. And the last piece of information we're given, 54% drink both beer and wine. Now, from there, I can go and fill out the rest of the table if I want. But what we're really looking for here is what percent of Denver wine drinkers do not drink beer. So we're looking at this box here, and 54, total of 60, that the wine drinkers who do not drink beer, that's going to be, there's going to be 6% of our people in here. Now, again, come back to the question. Precisely what is it asking you for? I want the percentage of Denver wine drinkers who do not drink beer. So the total, we've got a 60% here. That's the total amount of wine drinkers that we have in this sample, whatever it is. 6% of those 60% are the wine drinkers who do not drink beer. So to find the total percentage, I would do 6 over 60 times by 100, and that's going to give me 10% there. So our answer for this question is going to be B. So well done for those of you that picked that one. Right, I'm going to keep this moving and get right onto the third question so that we can take a look at as many of these as possible. This one's up there as one of my favorite overlapping sets questions, because it's one of those ones that people look at and just go, this isn't overlapping sets question. People jump to probability here. They start thinking about and rules or rules. They start multiplying things, subtracting things. Whereas, we can deal with this as an overlapping sets question just like any other. And it's just about being careful with what you're being asked and how you're going about thinking of these. So again, I'm going to get this table up here. And we've got event M, not M, R, not R, and we've got our totals here. Now, probabilities always add up to 1. So let's get 1 down in the bottom right corner here. And again, we're told in this one that the probability that event M will not occur is 0.8. So probability that M will not occur, 0.8 down there. Now, as we said, probabilities have to add up to 1. So the probability that M will occur is 0.2. We get a similar thing with R. The probability that R will not occur is 0.6. And the total has to add up to 1, so we can put 0.4 in there. Now, the next piece of information we're given in this question is if these two events cannot both occur. So if this is the box here, M and R, this is the box where they both occur, and that has to be 0. They cannot both occur there. All right, I've got a couple of comments coming in that I'm going a bit too fast, so I'm going to slow this down for you. Thank you for that, guys. Give me all the feedback you like, ask any questions as we're going, and we'll slow this down, so hopefully the explanations are a bit more clear. So as I said, we've got this table set up. We know the probability of not M is 0.8, so the probability of M is 0.2. Probability of not R is 0.6, so the total is 0.4. And we were told there that these events cannot both occur. And so we got a probability of 0 there. Now, what I'm looking for here is which of the following is the probability that either event M or event R will occur. So I'm not looking for the one where they do not occur. I'm looking for where M and not R or R and not M. Well, in both cases, I can explain, I can sum across the top row. These two boxes have to add up to 0.4. So I'll put 0.4 in there, and that'll give me the sum across that top row that I'm looking for. In a very similar way, I can sum down that first column. So I've got a 0 here. The total must be 0.2. So this box must be 0.2. Now, as I said, I want the probability that either event M or event R will occur. So I want the sum of this box or this box. And so at that stage, 0.2 plus 0.4 gives me 0.6. My answers are all in fractions. I can convert the 0.6 into 3/5, and the answer for this one should be C. All right, we've got one more 2-item overlapping set, and then we'll get into the third one. So I'll get this question out of the way, and we'll take a look at the fourth one from the quiz. Right. Again, this question, lots and lots of text. So one of the worst things you can do in one of these questions is to get intimidated by that wall of text and try and read this too quickly and miss the information that's being given and the nuances in the question and try and race through. So again, 2-item overlapping set thing. I've got that same 3 vertical lines, 3 horizontal lines, grids going on here. And we're looking for, what are the two things? What are the two things that we're being compared here? Now, first sentence of this. So we've got a certain transatlantic crossing. Not really worried about that. 20% of a ship's passengers held round-trip tickets, first thing, also took their cars. So I'll say round-trip tickets, and these are the people that do not have round-trip tickets. Round-trip tickets, I don't know where the P came from there, round-trip tickets. And there's your total. And these are the people that took their car, and these are the people that did not take their car. And again, we've got a total there. So the piece of information we were given there is that 20% of the ship's passengers held a round-trip ticket and also took their cars aboard the ship. Sorry, I've been sleeping. Charles has been the one that's been doing this for about 18 hours here. I don't know why I'm stumbling over words. It's a percents question. So the total down at the bottom right, so they're going to be 100. And that first sentence told us 20% of people took their cars and took a round-trip ticket. Now, this is the next bit here, how this is phrased. 60% of the passengers with round-trip tickets did not take their cars aboard the trip. So we're looking here. Of the people who had a round-trip ticket, 60% of them did not take their car. So if that was X, that would be 60% or 0.6 of X, which means that the people who took their car were 40% of the total people with round-trip tickets. So 40% of X is going to be 20. And I don't know, if you were watching this 13, 14 hours ago when Charles was doing the percentages lesson, we can convert this very, very strictly straight into text here. 40%, 40 over 100 times by X is going to be 20, or in other words, 2/5 of X is going to be 20, which means that X here is going to be 50. Or in other words, I can rub these out. The total number of people with a round-trip ticket is 50. We can fill in the people who did not take their car. And so we'll keep reading this question. What percent of the ship's passengers held round-trip tickets? Well, that's what we just found. So our answer here is going to be C, and we don't need to fill out the rest of the table. So as you can see here again, these overlapping sets problems, and we'll get into some more of them after we've dealt with these ones from the quiz. The 2x2 grid, again, it just sums across, it sums vertically. Not that difficult when it comes to the math. The difficulty in these questions is all about how precisely do you read the text and how clearly do you understand what's being asked for. Take a little bit of extra time to understand the question, and these fall out relatively easily. All right, I'll get onto the fifth question from this quiz, and we'll go into the 3-item overlapping sets. So again, in this one, 3-item overlapping sets, it's another one. Yes, there are formulas, and yes, the formulas work. And I'm not going to say anything against you if you want to go and use the formulas. What I find is that, as I said earlier, pressure does funny things to you when the time's coming on. And can you guarantee 100% that you're going to remember that formula precisely when it's question 30 and the pressure's on? There are Venn diagrams. You can do triple Venn diagrams and get to an answer, but not in every question, which is, that's the main reason why I go against doing the Venn diagrams for these questions, is that, yeah, it'll work for some questions, and for some questions it'll work better, but it won't work for all of them. Yeah, if we come back to that idea that we're looking for the minimum number of decisions you have to make during this exam, then I don't want you to have to decide, look at a question and go, Venn diagram, table, formula. We want one method that will work and be the most reliable. It might not be the fastest, it might not be the best, but it's going to be the most reliable. Come back to the way the GMAT works, making small, unnecessary errors. That's the worst thing you can do. So this might take a little bit longer. I think it's more reliable. We'll see where this one goes. So for a 3-item overlapping set, I'm going to do another table. Going to do it slightly differently. This time, we've got 3 columns. All right. Now, in this question, we've got, disturbed people. And so the headings for the columns really don't matter. When you're in the exam, I don't think you're really going to be writing the headings, but let's get them in here so that the people watching the videos know what we're talking about. So this first column, I'm going to call the number of disturbances. Again, very strange question, 55 truly disturbed people. For first column, number of disturbances. And we're told at the end of this, or we're told somewhere in this, so each people, we know that each person has at least 1 disturbance here. So 1, 2, 3. At least 1, maybe up to 3 disturbances here. Next column is going to be the number of people. Now, we're told at the start here that this has a total of 55 truly disturbed people. And we're also told that 3 people do all 3 of these things. Okay, so we can fill that in. The question we're looking for is how many of them do exactly 2 activities. So I'm going to put an X there. That's my unknown. If you're going to use this method, then when you're reading the question, when you're setting this table up, make the X the unknown, the thing you're looking for, and then we'll build the rest of the table around that. Now, in the way I've just said there, this final bit, I got no information about how many people do one of these things. And so what we can say again is this column adds up to 55. So the number of people here, in order to make this column add up to 55, that will be 55 minus X. Sorry, 52 minus X. Now this third column, there's never really a good name for this. And again, the name doesn't matter. You're not going to be naming the columns in the exam. But for the sake of this, let's just call this, I don't know, it's the number of, it's almost the number of activities. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second. And we'll use this third row just to demonstrate this. There are 3 people, and those 3 people have 3 disturbances each. So in total, there are 9 disturbances. Yeah, it doesn't, again, the name doesn't really matter. That doesn't really work. Sorry, I can just see there that that number's not actually appearing on the screen. I'll move this column over a little bit so that we can see what's going on. So we've got 9 disturbances going on there. Well, in the same way, if X people have 2 disturbances each, then there's going to be 2X kind of activities, 2X disturbances going on there. And if 52 minus X people have 1 disturbance each, 52 minus X going on there. Now, at this stage, doesn't look particularly helpful. If we were to add up down that column, the X's would disappear. But the one thing we can do is we can add a total onto this number of activities column. If you add up the 22 people wear Crocs, the 18 pulls the wings off flies, and the 32 people root for the Yankees, I'm not American. I don't understand why that makes you disturbed. I'm sure Charles will be able to explain that when he gets back. But if we add those up, that's going to give us a total there of 72. And now that's something we can work with, because now we can say that when we sum down this column, we should get an answer here. And so we could get an equation, 52 minus X plus 2X plus 9 should equal 72. 2X minus X will give us an X. 52 plus 9 will give us 61. And so X there is going to be 11, and the answer is going to be C. All right, so hopefully that explained a few things going on with the quiz. Like I say, table method of doing the 3 items. If you're comfortable with the formula, if you're confident you can remember that formula when the pressure's on, go for it. No problem at all with that. Again, if you like Venn diagrams for these sets, they can work. Again, there are some overlapping sets questions for which the Venn diagrams don't work 100%. And so the table method, while it might not be the fastest, while it might not be the best, that is most reliable ways. Sorry guys, we've got a few questions coming saying 72 there. If you add up the total number of disturbances, as I say, 22 people wear Crocs, 18 pull the wings off flies, and 32 people root for the Yankees. If you add up the 18, the 22, and the 32, that'll give you the 72 that sits at the bottom of the column there. In a 3-item overlapping set, the total at the bottom of this column is the sort of the total number of disturbances that they give you in the question. Hope that gives you a clue as to how some of these are going. We're going to go into a few more questions. I've got about 20 minutes left with you before Charles wakes up from his nap and comes back and joins us. So I'm going to bounce around a bit. We've got another 3-item overlapping set. We'll definitely get that in there. We'll get another couple of 2-item overlapping sets questions in here. So I'm going to get another question up on the screen, and I'll see you back here in a couple of minutes' time to take a look at this. All right, folks, I hope that's enough time to take a look at this one. If you're watching this back later and you're not watching this live, feel free to pause it. We'll still be here when you get back. For those of you that are here live, if you've not finished this, please keep going, but I'll just be annoying you with an explanation in the background. All right, so again, another 2x2 overlapping sets problem. So first job is let's define what the 2 sets are. Now in this one, hopefully fairly obvious, we've either got conservative or we're voting for candidate A. So I've got my table set up and ready to go here so that we can get through as many of these questions as possible in the time remaining. And so we're given some stuff from the total here. So again, 75% of these people voted conservative. So we can go and fill that box in. Now, because we're dealing with percentages, we can fill the total in there as 100. And adding along that bottom row, that should give us 25 in the not conservative row. Now, again, it's that next bit. It's the wording of the next bit that you've got to look out for. This is the issue here. 60% of conservatives voted for candidate A. So it's not 60% are going in here. That would be 60% of the total. What we're looking for is 60% of 75, and that's going to give us our answer there. Now, trying to do this quickly. I did do this earlier. 60% of 75 will give me 45 in there, and I'll leave that for you guys to check that if you want to. But now we can begin to fill out the rest of this. But first, I'm going to take a look at what rest of information we're given and what we're being asked for. Candidate A received 50% of all votes. So I can go and fill this total in, and that would give me enough information to fill down the bottom there. And I'm looking for what percentage of non-conservative voters supported candidate A. So what percentage of these not conservative voters, so percentage of the 25, supported candidate A? Well, summing along that top row, 45 plus 5 would give us the 50 there. I'm coming back. This is a very similar one to question 2 from the quiz. What percentage of the non-conservative voters supported candidate A? Well, what percentage is 5 of 25? and we could do 5 divided by 25 times by 100 to find that percentage there, and that should give you 20, which in this case would be B. All right, so yeah, I had, just before we jump into the next one, I'm just going to come back a little bit, talk about the couple of the questions that we saw earlier. Somebody was saying any indicators to look for which would say the table method would be easy to solve for the algebra, and that's almost what we're trying to stay away from. I don't want you to have to go looking for things in the question and having to make a decision while you're thinking about it, going, okay, it said this, then it said this, then it said this. That means I need to do the algebra, or it said this and it said this. That means the table method would be used. That would be better. If you just think about that, that just means an extra step in the process. I've got to think about which method I'm going to use before I go in to do anything else. All I'm trying to say is the table method, it's not perfect. It is a bit slower maybe than the algebra. It might also be slower than the Venn diagram, but it's reliable. And it's something you can fall back on again and again and again. Somebody else said, does the Venn diagram work every single time? The problem typically comes with the 3-item overlapping sets, and we should get to another one of those before the end of it if we move a bit quickly and I get through this explanation in a reasonable amount of time. That when for a 3-item Venn diagram, you typically have to work from the inside and work your way out. If you don't know the information right in the center, it's very difficult to spread this out and go from there. So that, again, that's why I'm saying that the Venn diagrams can be better for certain questions, but they don't always work. There are some 3-item overlapping sets questions that, again, maybe I'm wrong here, but I can't get them to work. And so the table method, not perfect, maybe slower, reliable, consistent, and you can fall back on it when the pressure hits in the exam. All right, I think we've got, looking at the time, we'll jump to a 3-item overlapping sets question because that seems to be the one that's getting the question. So we'll jump to this one, and if we've got time, we'll come back to a 2-item overlapping set. So we'll give you a couple of minutes, and I'll see you back here in a second. Hope you've had enough time to take a look at this one. We've had some nice comments in the comments bar. Delighted that some of you are trying this new method and it's working. People saying that it's making them more confident. Delighted to hear it. Again, if you've been using a Venn diagram, if you've been using the formula, great. We're all about flexibility of methods. If it works for you, fantastic. And I'm going to show you the way through this. Guys, I can see that the PowerPoint on the screen is just blocking some of the text there. Could you take that away and we'll get it up full screen? And I think I've got enough information here to go through this whole question. So yeah, we were given a table. We're told about these toddlers drooling, nose picking, and biting people. One of the questions we had when we went through the last 3-item overlapping sets one was, how did I know about the total in this third column here? Well, it comes from adding these 3 together. So again, 55 plus 48, that should give us 95, 103, 153. That should, if I've done my maths right there, give us 161. Please shout if we get that, if I've got that wrong. So I can say the total number of activities right at the end, down at the bottom column, that's going to be 161 there. Now, again, number of habits here. Well, the toddlers in this setup are either going to have 1, 2, or 3 habits, but we were told in the question that no toddler had 1 habit, so I can begin to fill in that with a 0. The question, how many had all 3 bad habits? So again, when you're building this table, go to what you're being asked for and make that the unknown, and we can build the rest of the table around that. Now, in this question, the next bit, can we fill out the number of toddlers that had 2 bad habits? And that comes from the wording of the text there. We know 15 drooled and picked their nose, 25 drooled and bit people, and 18 bit people and picked their nose. And if you add the 15, the 25, and the 18 up together, that should give us 58. Again, if my arithmetic's working right here. Now, again, this first column, I don't know how many toddlers there are. So the first column here that we fill in, not helpful in this question. Sometimes, and I'll just give you the warning here, if this is the first time seeing the table method, sometimes the first column is what you're looking for. This would add up and give us an equation that we would want. Again, it's all about the information that you were given and what you're given in the question and how the table works out. So build the table and see where it goes. We need a little bit of that flexibility still in here. But what we're going to do with this one is start building across to that third column. Again, well, I'll use this number because it makes things easier to see what's going on. 58 toddlers have 2 bad habits each. So in total, that would be 116 bad habits across the range of those toddlers. Again, I've got no good name for that third column. If any of you have a great name, please punch in the comments. I would love to have something reasonable to tell people when we explain this for the first time. Next, top line's pretty easy. 0 toddlers have 1 bad habit. So there's just no bad habits going on there at all. And our final one, X toddlers have 3 bad habits each. So there would be 3X bad habits in total. That final column gives us the equation that we would need to go and solve this. And I'll squeeze this in here. If I sum down that line, 116 plus 3X equals 161. So that would give us 3X would equal 45. And so X is 15 there, which should be D. Right, so that's the three item overlapping set table that we've had a lot of questions about in the comments. I hope that's helpful for you guys that have never seen that before. Give it a try, play around with this method on some questions. And then, yeah, like I say, it's not going to be the quickest way, but hopefully it's a bit more reliable and it eliminates or minimizes the number of those easy errors that you're making. And those are the ones that really kill your scores. All right. Yes, Kazi, I'm sorry, I'm just seeing a couple of questions there. This, I think, is adapted from one of our questions and is not quite so tightly worded as some of the official ones. If this was an official question, I'm sure they would rule out the idea that 0 toddlers had no bad habits. Yeah, like I say, the ones that go into the real exam will be far more tightly worded. All right, I've only got about another minute left. There is another question I would love to get up on the screen, but I don't know if we're going to have time for it. Let me go back one and talk about the vertigo hospital question. In order to get this in, we're only going to have about 30, 45 seconds for you guys to take a look at it, and I will have most of the table drawn up behind me. But have a look and see what you think about this one. Helps if I unmute myself before we come back and see. All right, guys, we've got plenty of disagreement going on here in the comments box. So as I say, I know we're running a little bit over here. Charles will be back very soon. But let's take a look at this one and see where we end up. Right, so right up at the start, 2-item overlapping set, arachnophobia, acrophobia. Again, be very careful with the wording here because they're so similar. Arachnophobia, fear of spiders, I think. Acrophobia, no idea. If anybody knows what acrophobia is, send it in the comments. That'd be an interesting fact for me to know on a Saturday morning. We've got a total. 58 patients in the hospital are going to be our total there. And we're told right at the start, 45 have arachnophobia. So just in case you can't see, arachnophobia here is on my columns. Acrophobia is in my rows. So 45 have arachnophobia, which means I can fill in 13 do not. And I'll be very clear about what I'm looking for. How many have acrophobia? So I'm looking for the total over in the far right there. Then we can go into the 2 pieces of information. Now, number 1, the number who have both is equal to the number who have neither. All right, so again, I'm going to keep this down in the bottom right-hand corner of each of the boxes so that I can use this same table for all the pieces of information. So the number who have both, which is this top right one, I'll just put an X in there, is the same as the number who have neither. And I'll put an X down there. All right. Now, I could say something like this box has 13 minus X, but I can't really figure out how I'm going to get to an answer there. Or could I? So 13 minus X in that box. And this, because we know, again, I'm not sure I'm going to need that. It's going to be there. Now, adding across this top row, again, I'm looking for this total here. X plus 13 minus X there. Well, the X's would cancel and that would give us 13. So I could put a 13 in that row. And so I can tell what the answer is to, or what I can find out what's in that box just from the information that we were given in piece of information number 1. So I'm going to cross out BCE and my answer is going to be A or D. Now, piece of information number 2, 32 have arachnophobia, but not acrophobia. So I'm just going to get my wording right here so that I don't screw this up. 32 have arachnophobia, but not acrophobia. So I could say that would be 32. And now, because I'm on piece of information number 2, I'm going to ignore the bit in the bottom right of the box. I'm just going to deal with the bits in the middle. I can fill out from there, I can fill out that would be 13. I can't get across these rows. As I say, yeah, I know that this column is going to have to add up to 13, but I can't figure out what's going to go along here. So from that, I'm not going to be able to get to that top right box here. And so that means that that's not going to be sufficient. And I'm going to have my answer here is going to be A. Right, so yeah, as I said here, the piece of information number 1 looks insufficient because we're not being given any numbers there. But if you're careful with how you define things, tuck things away, fill in everything you can. As we said, we could get an equation that would give us an answer there, and that will give us an answer of A here. All right, so thanks, Buniel. Charles said that this was one of your questions, and actually, if I'm honest, I got this one wrong last night, so I'm glad that I saw the difference here. All right, so hopefully that gives you a couple of new ideas to think about with some overlapping sets. As I say, I think the big thing that most people took from today was that new way of looking at 3-item overlapping sets. As I keep saying, might not be quicker, but it will be more reliable. And yeah, I hope that those of you that have seen that for the first time get a chance to play around with that. And yeah, I hope it helps.